Watch us next on TSN.
Welcome to Winnipeg in the 2003 Ford World Curling Championships right here on TSN. Nancy Delahunt, Marianne Way, Kim Kelly and Colleen Jones from the Mayflower Curling Club in Halifax looking for their second world title after finishing off the podium last year in Bismarck. It's the first draw here in Winnipeg. The men will take the ice this afternoon, but it is the women this morning on their first draw in the Winnipeg Arena. 5 sheets in play, as you can see. Canada will be on sheet D, but let's first take a look at all the matchups this morning. On sheet A, we have Dorte Nordby of Norway against Dorte Holm of Denmark. Italy, Diana Gaspari, she was actually in the World Juniors last year on sheet B, playing Debbie McCormick from the U.S. Right in the middle, sheet C, we have Sweden. That's Annette Norberg against Nicole Strausik of Switzerland. And there's Team Canada. Colleen Jones facing Olga Jarkova of Russia. And on the end, we have Japan. And it's Shinobu Aota playing against Eden Loudon of Scotland. And of course, Scotland winning last year. Not the Loudon team, but a lot to play for that team this year. And I'd like to welcome Kathy Gauthier this morning. A little different for me to see the ice from this vantage point, but here we go. First draw, Kathy.
Well, and I'd like to welcome you, Linda. It is truly a pleasure. I do miss my buddy John Wells, and I'm hoping that he's going to get out of Toronto today. But it is a personal pleasure to work with you and to see you before lunch.
That's right. We, of course, will explain that in Toronto, the weather conditions have prevented flights from taking off, so John is stuck, and you're stuck with me this morning.
It's a great place to be for Colleen Jones and the girls. Spent a lot of time with them last night. They have so much that they feel that they have to prove after Bismarck last year in a less than solid performance. They are so excited to be here and will work very hard to do a good result this year.
Check in, pick up your brooms, and go
So let's take a little look, Kathy, at the field. First of all, the champions of the past.
Well, if you look at Colleen Jones, she's won it before. You gotta like her odds. Dorte Nordby, a 2-time world champion. She is always tough, and Annette Norberg medals every time she comes to the show.
If we look at those that have had success in the past, Dorte Holm has played with Helena Bloch-Laversen from Denmark in the past. Debbie McCormick, 2 of the team members were on the Olympic team. She had a great run in the U.S. Championships. Eden Loudon, as I said, she personally hasn't been there. She was 5th last year, the alternate for Scotland when they won. Nicole Strausik, she won Switzerland last year. She hopes to do well this year.
For Japan, they certainly have a lot to prove out here. Diana Gaspari just coming off a bronze at the World Juniors, but can she compete at the Women's League? And the Russian team we'll see this morning got off to a great start last year, but then has not yet met that 500 mark. They have a lot to show us, but they did win the university games, Linda, so maybe their practice is paying off.
And we're underway here with Russia holding the hammer. It's Nancy Delahunt and Canada throwing the first stone. And Kathy, you were telling me that the ice looks very good for this first day.
It does indeed. In fact, yesterday, Hans Wuthrich, the ice maker, felt that it almost curled too much at 6 feet. He's tried to control it a little bit to about a 4-foot range, and we'll read the ice a little bit later in the show, but we can expect some great finish, and that makes great shots.
A little bit different, of course, than playing at the Scott Tournament of Hearts, Kathy. You come into this as Team Canada, and you're not as familiar with your opponents. And this team we've seen at World Juniors in the past, but it isn't easy to scout these opponents, especially on the first day of play.
Well, it is true, and especially for teams like Russia. Colleen Jones may have encountered the American teams just by geography. Very unlikely, other than in Bismarck, they would meet, and so you can never ever guess what your opponent's done during the course of the year.
Not unusual to see this for the first end of play. It's, of course, the first day of play, checking out the ice a little bit, and the play is wide open, an exchange of hits.
And we would expect this as well from Colleen. Colleen is known as being a relatively defensive player, likes to keep things open, likes to keep things simple, and especially the first game of the Worlds, Linda, on ice that you're not really sure of, an opponent you're not sure of. I think this is a smart move.
Throwing lead stones for Russia is Anastasia Skulton. She's playing the out-turn hit. And technically, Kathy, I think we see that a lot of these countries are very good. It's sometimes when we get later in the game and we talk about tactics that they may struggle.
It's true. I rode back to the hotel last night with Christian Sorum from Norway, and one of the things that he feels is the biggest difference between his teams and many and the Canadians is just the experience they don't get from the numbers of teams in their countries. And that, of course, leads to strategy, and that has been the downfall of a lot of the teams.
You look at these little notes underneath all the names of the Canadians. Just amazing the record this team has. Marianne Way throwing second stones. It's almost hard to believe their success over the last few years.
It is. I think that for Colleen Jones and her team, it will be a long time, if ever, that anyone is able to match or surpass the record that they have put together. Great chance to see Marianne with the draw weight. We do know that it runs the hardest, the fastest first thing in the morning. We're looking at about 14.5 seconds. We time between the hog lines. You may see that at 15 now, so the guards could be up to 17. It's green ice, it's new. Teams need to be prepared to adjust, and these ice times are brought to you by the Government of Canada.
So this team is not without experience. Yana Nekrasova playing second stone. As I mentioned, they've been in World Juniors, university games, but it's not the same as moving up to the adult level.
I would agree.
But one thing I think we do know is that you can't expect to run up and down if you're Canada with some of these teams. I think we often see that technically, as I mentioned, these teams like Russia are quite good. They've got a coach who is really seeming to train the teams well in the country. You can't really expect to get a wide open miss very often these days from these countries.
No, I would agree, and as you referred to earlier, it's the strategy. It's when there are more rocks in play that should be the advantage to the Canadian teams. The challenge for Colleen Jones and her team is that is not a style that she is comfortable with playing, which is probably one of the reasons that this great Canadian team has struggled internationally.
Well, that's it. I mentioned the tremendous record they have had, and there is no one that can doubt how good they are at the Scott Tournament of Hearts. You just look at how many victories they have. But Colleen said it herself, she still has something that she wants to prove. They didn't even medal last year, and she really wants this badly. And if you talk about technical ability, Colleen, there's no one better. And as I mentioned, Russia's probably not going to miss a lot of open hits, but Kim Kelly, former MVP, this is a very, very solid team.
Clean. Clean. Nice throw.
Wide open, what we're seeing is probably going to come more into play in the men's games, and that is that with any up weight, the rocks will run really straight. What that allows are those great angle shots. Throw a little bit of weight, and the rock will stay right there.
Kira Ezek throwing the third stones for Russia, and she was a skip previously at the World Juniors. If you look across all the sheets of ice, there's not a lot of rocks in play, and I think that is to be expected, as we said, wide open here in the first draw of the World Curling Championships.
No question about that for Kim. She's had a phenomenal history in this game and also this year with her mixed title. But I would agree, Linda, first game, morning draw, you've been waiting to play in the Worlds. You take it very easy the first end.
And there you see the 5 sheets in play. We're on sheet D. That's the second from the right. And of course, as the week progresses and we watch the sheets of ice, we'll know if these sheets are affected at all by the stands. There's actually a pretty good crowd here first thing in the morning, Kath.
It is phenomenal. Yesterday at the opening ceremonies, there were probably 65 to 7,000 people in the building. Really, really a warm welcome for the teams coming to Canada. They've all said that it has been their dream to play in Canada in a Worlds, and Winnipeg likes to view itself as the heart of the curling community. And I think that by the numbers we have in the building this morning, it's a good sign of some great attendance figures this week. Now let's think what country they would be cheering for.
Good for them to wear that hat first thing in the morning.
That, or at any other part of the day as well.
It is actually a pretty good crowd here. I'm very impressed.
You know, if you come out in the morning more often, you would see many things, my friend.
You know, I just, it doesn't look the same as through the blankets that I normally see.
It's a hair less.
Dear.
Colleen Jones getting ready to throw her rock here in the first end. And you can see just not a lot of rocks in play.
There are. It is. Okay. Why is that? They're black behind us? But they're black legs behind us? Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny, we often talk about optics when you're in the hack and how different arenas are when you move, and that's the conversation they're having right there. The backdrop is a little different, the clothing of the opponent's a little different, and Colleen is just remarking how different the broom looks right now.
Well, she was, and the Russian team that is standing behind Marianne and, or rather Nancy, have black pants on, and she was having a hard time to determine exactly where the broom is. And for someone like Colleen that is very methodical, it is all of those things that go through your head when you sit in a hack.
Clothing colors are determined by the handles you throw. Canada throwing red, so they're wearing the dark shirts, and Nancy with the dark skirt and the dark pants. It was just causing a few problems for Colleen. Nice execution, though, on that in-turn hit.
You need to put a glow stick on the broom or something.
Well, that's doable.
And here's our first look at the Russian skip, Olga Jarkova.
And I talked about that earlier, that 4-5 record, Linda. The first 4 games is where she got the 4 wins. So whether it was a function of nerves or the tougher half of the field, there is no question they sort of lost some of their edge towards the end of the week.
And I guess if you can take that experience last year and chalk it up to a little nerves, it's probably something they can build on. You heard Colleen talk about the problem. She said maybe put a glow stick on the broom because, of course, there's the black slacks worn by the Russian team, and standing in behind the broom held by Nancy Delahunt, it was a bit of a problem. But it happens everywhere. I know you probably faced the same thing when you got in the hack. Every backdrop, every opponent's clothing looked a little different, and you had to deal with that.
You bet. Those are things, and Ken Bagnall is not here yet. He is their coach, their mentor, and someone who is also in Toronto, along with a whole lot of people that aren't going anywhere. And those are things that sports psychology will teach you, is the ability to isolate those things, to recognize them, and then to move on and find ways to deal with what it is that you have to deal with.
Get over.
Whoa. Can't hold the shooter on that one. And so it looks like we'll be moving to a blank end as Russia has the hammer and can throw it through. Now I hesitate for a moment because we don't always see that, but usually in the first end we will see the team blank. We are playing under World Curling Federation rules, and a little different for Colleen and the girls to get used to the 4-rock free guard zone rule here.
Yeah.
Well, your judgment's sound.
It is
Russia is in fact throwing it through for the first blank of this game.
So Olga Jarkova from the Moskvich Curling Club in Moscow will hold the hammer here in the first draw of the World Curling Championships. Moving to the second end,
I'm just throwing more
Colleen
weight
Jones
than,
trying to capture another title.
On yours, they were both 8-7.
The 2003 Ford World Curling Championships from Winnipeg, Manitoba are brought to you by Karcher, you'll look for things to clean. By Nokia, official wireless phone of the Season of Champions. And by Ford, built for life in Canada.
And we're starting the second end of play here in the first draw of the Ford World Curling Championships in Winnipeg. A little snowy Winnipeg, but actually a very bright morning. Lovely sunshine coming through the clouds.
It is a beautiful day here. We had no snow till a couple of days ago, and we
Team-wise, I mean, yeah.
got that horrible system that I think that most of our country got hit by, except of course where you live.
I'm not saying a thing.
Clean only.
Clean.
It's interesting,
Clean.
Colleen asking
Whoa.
for the very first
Clean.
stone from Nancy Delahunt right in the forefoot. Nancy puts it there. What Colleen is saying by her tactics is she wants to force Russia to make a move. She wants to see what Olga will do this morning, and what Olga is content to do is just run rocks with the Canadians for now.
Now we talk about style of play, and you've already mentioned Colleen's struggles a little bit at the World Championships. We expect the more experienced teams here perhaps to put some rocks in play against Colleen. Not so with Russia yet anyways, but do you expect that for the week?
Well, I think that what we talked about earlier, Linda, when we group the teams into those that we look at as front runners, I have no doubt in my mind that if we were watching Doherty Nordby in this end, there would be guards in play. If we were watching Sweden, they would be forcing the issue, and quite frankly, so might the American girls. The question is for the Russian team with less experience and a lot of respect for the Canadian team, they will likely wait. Wait how long? Hard to know.
Marianne Wade throwing the drop. So if we look at Russia, for example, though, I think one of the things that's impressed me over the time I've watched them at the World Junior Championships in particular is they have had an improvement. And I think of a lot of the countries, if I look and see how the teams qualified through the Europeans, there's a team missing here that we often see, and that's Germany. Germany did not qualify. Italy beat them at the Europeans. So at least a country like Russia, we are seeing quite a bit of progress, in my opinion.
I would agree, and what is significant to note, we talked about Olga Jarkova's team winning the World University Games. The team that they defeated in the final was the Canadian team. You have to think that that Canadian team would have been bringing some definitely more experience. So are they doing things in their own country? You have to believe that. Technically, we've always said these teams learn and train well. No question, experience counts. And we're going to start to see on shots like this, Linda, when you're playing the draws. Are you in front of the tee line? Do you know the importance of being short versus heavy? And that's where we see the differences in these teams on the sheet of ice this morning.
Yana Nekrasova trying to come around, and there is the example you just talked about. Can't get it to stop.
And a good chance for us and everyone watching to see exactly what this ice will do for this week with Hans Withrick and his tremendous crew. You can expect that what you see this morning is what you will see 3 draws a day and all week.
Wait's nice.
Fine. Line's fine.
All there for Wait.
Lots
Trying
of
to
line.
come around.
Yeah, it's a little deep.
Broom was into the 12-foot circle to put down for this come-around attempt.
Boy, 72, Kim. What did you get?
Wow, right to the back circle. Now, you were saying, Kathy, too, that you thought maybe the ice was a little faster than you thought it might be for the rest of the week. This looks like it's really sliding.
It really, really is. I have my stopwatch up here, and earlier I was timing rocks and having a hard time believing that I was getting 15 and a half splits between the 2 hog lines. That is so quick. And it does fool a little bit with the teams, because weight that is that quick is almost hard to throw.
Линия! Вау! Линия! Вау! Нет. По весу не надо, линия. Стой, детка, стой, любимый.
Well, I talked about rocks in play, and actually Norway did put some more rocks in play. Dorothy Nordby with a single in the first end, playing Dorothy Holm of Denmark. And it was Debbie McCormick of the U.S. capturing a single point with the hammer in the first end against Italy. But here you see the blank, Sweden and Switzerland, Annette Norberg and Nicole Straussick. And we saw, of course, our first end, Canada-Russia, blank end as well, and also Japan and Scotland. So 3 of the sheets pretty wide open to start this draw.
Clean through. Through.
Yep. Hard.
And the last shot by Russia coming just a little deep. The sweepers had to go to get it by the guard.
Thanks for reminding me. Nice shot, Kim.
Nice little tap back by Canada. They sit 2, but they are at the back of the circles, Russia, with the hammer here in the second end.
For Colleen without last rock, she wasn't comfortable with that Russian stone being there, but by removing it, those rocks are deep in the house. A chance for Russia to get a stone in front.
Вес. По линии. Вес. Пока только вес.
Kira Ezet.
Только вес, девочки.
Вес. Нет, не надо.
Нет.
We've talked about how
Ничего нет.
quick it can be. 14.5 to 15 seems to be the key this morning.
Не, спасибо.
And that should be heavy then.
Yeah, but we're 1 now.
Сколько он был?
Yeah, we are.
Colleen already lying 1, and those rocks being so far back, a great chance for Kim Kelly. Again, trying to find that draw weight early in the game.
Where?
It's hard to say. 76, so it's...
Line spine.
Yep.
Feet. Heavy.
Yep. Pretty close.
Heavy. Hurry line.
There's the big finish that we talk about. You can see the rock just hooking right over.
It's going to come out the other side.
Yeah, look at it cross the center
Nice
line
weight,
and come
Kim.
out the other side. It's going to be open on the other turn. Now remember, we do play under World Curling Federation's rules here, Kathy. There's a little difference.
We do, and the couple that I'd like us to focus on are the times. That's the second one. At the Canadian Championships, we have 73 minutes with 2 one-minute timeouts. Here, the clock keeps running, same time, but it feels like less because you can't stop the play. Behind the tee line, it is only the skip or the vice skip allowed to sweep stones, so your team has to stop and you have to finish. It just means a little bit of a switch. And of course, it's the beginning. It is the 4-rock rule. The difference there is not only the 4th stone, but it is your opponent's stone you cannot remove. You can remove your own guard.
Canada sitting 2, and Russia looking to play a hit on this rock that did peep out the other side, but lots of weight on this. Moved it, but didn't remove it.
I like those, yeah, I like those angles, yeah.
For Colleen and her team, the reason they want to play this way is that even if they're partially exposed, if Russia does want to play the hit game as they just did, you can see that it would be driven back into their own stones, maybe still leaving Canada lying a couple.
The funny thing is, you could almost get to that spot with either turn.
It is true because
We
it
just
does
saw that
curl so
happen.
much.
It's pretty amazing. Olga Jarkova trying to generate some offense here with the hammer in the second end.
Ну, кажется, что он умрет сейчас.
Все нормально, он в конце берется.
Now, see, if John Wells were here, he'd be translating that.
Once and B.
Would we be believing what he was translating? Well, I'm
Did you get the
afraid
5, do
a
you think,
little
for-
bit of German, a little bit of French. Definitely you're great on the French, so we're okay on those two, but
Gotta clear those
I'm
guards by
afraid
a
not
lot
the
more to
Russian. I
vary.
apologize. Playing the in-turn come-around.
And I always find that for a skip like Colleen Jones, whose preference, whose strength has
Line's
always
great,
been viewed
guys.
as being
Wait
the hit,
only. Time
when
to
you
roll.
have a chance to
Lot of
draw
room.
draw
Leave it a minute if
early
you can.
and draw
Top
when
eight's
there's
good.
very little pressure, it's wonderful
Top
to be
eight's
able to
fine. It's
find
way
what that
out.
draw weight feels like.
Now this one did not
Beautiful
swing
throw.
as much. We saw the other turn go crazy, and this is coming in at the end. but did not have as much curl from the wide side.
I think the early sweep made that much difference.
Might have, but yet the
I expected a much bigger finish. Beautiful
Yes.
weight and right up, so.
When we look at Colleen, we've talked about her dominance in the Canadian Scott Championships, winning 4 of the 5 last. Struggles at the World, particularly last year, comes here very determined. The 4-rock free guard zone holds some mystery for Colleen. Doesn't like a lot of rocks in play, and that's what you get when you play the world rules.
And of course, the other knock has been she has not been successful with skins play, which is another type of format that requires lots of rocks in play. Now, to qualify that, she did in the Continental Cup, but she wasn't facing opponents that seemed to be as used to it and putting as many rocks in play. But Colleen says she's ready for this week in Winnipeg, and she wants this badly. Olga Jarkova with the takeout attempt.
Would like to get to the inside of that Canadian stone and roll her shooter behind the center guard.
Just didn't get the roll that she wanted. Now, I guess the question is, too, with that weight, can she? That was a lot of weight.
It was a lot of weight, particularly that side, Linda. We just saw Colleen throw a draw, not sure whether it was early sweeping or just that that side of the sheet does not finish as hard. And let's look at the Jarkova team. 4 straight wins last year in Bismarck and then wound up with 5 losses. Can't seem to find that 500 record so far at the Worlds, but this year she is the University Games champion, and last year it was 1 point the difference between Colleen Jones and this very team.
Yeah, nose might be fine because of the
It was funny, I looked back on the game last year, and Colleen actually had to hit and stay
So you know what?
at the end of the game and rolled almost out. So they had a very close game, almost went to another extra end. But Colleen sitting with a good position right now. 3 Canadian stones in the back of the ring. Shot stone does belong to Russia as Colleen plays the hit.
Yep.
Whoa.
Hurry!
Whoa. Whoa, whoa. Clean.
Whoa.
Clean.
Whoa.
Clean. Whoa, whoa, whoa. A little bit.
Very
Nice
nice. That was exactly what the Russian team was trying to do. Showed Colleen the path. And what a big shot this is now for the Russian team, facing 4 Canadian stones.
And this is where some experience might come into play. Olga has a position where she can draw down into the 8-foot and only give up a single, and this will be interesting to see how she handles this particular pressure-packed shot this early in the game.
This will be Olga's first draw this game. Not sure her team can help her too much on their previous attempts at draws. All the players have been deep.
Broom way out into the 12-foot. She does have backing if she comes down to the stones at the back of the 8-foot. But shot stone is in the 4-foot.
14 and a half.
Needs to stop. And it will come down to the back one, and she will give up a single to Colleen Jones. A steal of 1 for Canada here in the second end.
Lovely shot, Colleen.
And that's not a bad shot for Russia, actually, to get out of that position.
First one. Good end, you guys.
Canada sitting 4. It ends up a steal of 1 for Colleen
red.
Jones.
Is the red better for you?
We've seen 2 ends of play. Let's read the ice now with Kathy, brought to you by Ford, built for life in Canada.
Well, we have seen 2 great ends and lots of curl, at least 4 feet. We saw last end 1 may even move up to 5 and the other one maybe 3.5. To the corner guards, consistency at 4 feet, and from the outside in, it's like playing down the middle. You've got 4 feet of finish. It is green this morning, it is new ice, but when you have an ice maker like Hans Wuthrick, you are in great hands.
It is a great ice crew here, and he's made a lot of fantastic ice over the years. There's Hans.
Has been working hard on this ice all week. He said to me last night
lot.
that during the practice times
sure
it was
you're in.
about 6 feet of movement. He felt that was excessive, was going to work today to meet that goal of 4 feet. And Linda, I have every
Nice, but
confidence
good
that
sweep,
that
guys.
is what it will be.
And we're used to seeing that for the whole week, as you said, and that's what the curlers want, is consistency. As we move into the third end, Canada with the steal, so Russia still holding on to the last rock advantage.
And for Colleen, has never had last rock in this first game. During the week, they do split who gets last rock, but because you play 9 games, there is a flip for the first game, and that was won by Russia. Colleen has thrown that first stone in the house every end, and that's exactly what she's done. We'll keep to that same game plan against this Russian team.
Interesting, though, the last end developed because a rock came short that was indicated in. Came short of the house, a few nice come-arounds, and there was the steal.
I think that for the Russian team, maybe got a little bit nervous last end. Linda, facing 4 is not where you want to be.
We're in Winnipeg, in the Winnipeg Arena for the first draw of the Ford World Curling Championships. 5 sheets in play, women on the ice first draw, men later this afternoon. And if you're wondering why you're hearing my voice, of course, it's because there's some weather problems in Toronto, and John Wells and Vic Rauter are stuck there, unfortunately, looking for a flight to get out. Little problem with the weather and also, I guess, de-icing fluid to try and get the planes here. So it's Kathy Gochi and I first thing in the morning. So I'd like to welcome Vic Rauter, long distance. Hi, Vic.
So once again, you're there and I'm here.
How is it in Toronto?
I would like to blame Hans Vutric for the ice that we've gotten. I can tell you something though, it's a lot heavier than I suspect his ice is there in Winnipeg.
What?
But at least things are moving today. We don't, as I look out at the gate here from Toronto International, there's still no plane.
That's not a good sign.
No,
That's
Vic.
not a good sign, and I don't see a lot of de-icing going on. But you know, we're hoping, and I'm hoping to be there with you and Ray and John. I haven't seen John this morning yet.
Oh,
but
that's not good.
that's not good. So we're the lineups here are, as you can imagine, the entire airport was shut down yesterday, and nothing got out. And today the lineups are horrendous, but everybody's got a smile on. So we're hopefully going to be there by this afternoon's draw.
Well, we understand it is safety first, Vic, and we want you to get here safely, but we do miss all of you.
Well,
And you'd be very proud, Vic. You've got to see my score sheet that I've got out here. I have red, blue, and green pens that I'm using for my sheet.
So you're color-coordinated.
You taught me everything.
Just like me. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's nice. That's nice. Well, we're looking forward to it. And in fact, I've been sitting here. There's a number of people here who are hoping to be in Winnipeg for the opening ceremonies and the banquet last night. In fact, I'm sitting with a gentleman who is with the Latvian Curling Federation. Latvia made their first appearance at the Europeans this past year. They were in the B pool, and they did very well. They finished 3rd.
You find the most interesting people, Victor, everywhere you go.
Yeah, well, it's you know what, and it's be surprised how many people follow the game. As you well know, so many do. More people watch it than play it. So we're looking forward to it, and hopefully the plane will arrive shortly, and we'll join you this afternoon.
Well, we really do miss you last night, Vic, because you weren't here. As you know, I took over your duties as the MC for the opening banquet, and you can imagine my surprise when they told me I had to toast the piper with a shot of scotch. Apparently, that's your favorite moment.
Yeah, that's one that's left me on the floor a couple of times, but that's not a bet.
I was there after, actually. So you just show up here, my friend.
Vic, I do have one question for you.
Yes.
The weather here is partly cloudy, a little bit of sun, temperature of about -5. I'm a little surprised, Mr. Weatherman, that you didn't know what it was going to be like in Toronto.
Well, I don't, I did know, actually, and a lot of people did. I just don't think everybody expected it to be as much as it. I mean, you imagine a six centimeter snowfall, but this was just 6 centimeters of ice and ice pellets, and they ran out. They said that they used as much of their de-icer fluid in 24 hours as they use in a whole month. So they just flat out ran out. And then they couldn't get enough in, and there were late flights last night, and they were trying to get international flights out first. So that took priority. But as I speak to you right now, I see a plane coming in, and I think this may be ours.
Well, you have yourself a safe
Yeah,
flight, my friend.
No, it's coming right through the gate.
Oh, Vic.
It's not stopping in time. The plane is heavy. Can you imagine that?
Unbelievable.
Well,
Have
Vic-
yourself a safe flight, Victor, and please do go
All right, take
find
care,
my
everybody.
friend John Wells.
Vic,
And
we
we'll
do
see you
have
again.
a possible solution, though. If you can't make it, you know who might step in for you.
You know who's that? Moose. Would Ray do that for me?
Now is stopping time! Stopping time! It does! There is! Count 'em up! 1, 2, 3!
That's wonderful. Now the Canadian men's team,
Steve Laycock
world
and the boys.
champions now.
That's right.
That's right. From Flips. Well, you know what? That plane just went right by the gate. It made an out-turn instead of an in-turn.
Oh, Vic.
So there we go. So we're still waiting.
Oh, dear.
Right?
Well, we hope you make it sooner than later. We
Yeah,
are
I'll
looking
be there
forward
for the
to
closing. I'll be there for the closing ceremonies. I'll see you then.
We'll count on you then, Victor.
Okay, bye.
it. Take care.
Bye-bye. And of course, on our sheet, it has been mostly wide open. Canadians do lie too at the back of the house. Olga Yarkova showing some good thought-making process here, not even looking at removing those stones, trying to draw with Kira's stone in front. Anywhere of those two maybe create something that is difficult for the Canadians to remove.
Whoa. Давай, да.
Да, еще. Да, еще, ближе.
Victor is in a class by himself, is he not?
He is. Tough, you know, it's April and we don't expect that kind of weather. And of course, the situation in Toronto is very difficult. So we just hope it all clears up. It is a nice day today here. It's beautiful once they get in the air.
Firm. Yep, firm. Hard.
For Colleen and the Canadian girls, not too worried about those red stones at the back. If they go with this shot from Kim Kelly, not an issue, just wants to get rid of it, and she does.
And a little bonus really to get rid of another stone at the back and to get separation with these two rocks. Canada line to Russia with the hammer here in the third end. Now, one of the things we talk about with strategy, Kathy, and you've just talked about the ice, it isn't easy to freeze at the best of times. Now add to that the curl and the speed. And Olga's trying to find the place for the broom, but it's not easy for her team to make this shot.
The freeze is often regarded as the most difficult shot in curling because of the preciseness. But you are so right, Linda. When you add a great amount of swing to the ice, as we're seeing this morning, to get the rock to stop on a dime in front of another one is really, really difficult. And when you're still learning draw weight on a relatively new sheet of ice, makes it another factor that goes into it.
There's the world rule, of course. The acting skip has to take over the brushing at the tee line. Doesn't quite come up to the freeze.
And I'm seeing the same thing here, Linda. It is the right-hand side of the sheet as we stand behind it and play away. That is the same side that we saw Colleen be a little surprised by not having a lot of movement. That's the same spot the Russian team just threw to, and it did not finish as much.
Because I think we can just stay almost one, yeah.
Very familiar routine for Colleen Jones. Really, with the introduction of Ken Bagnall, a mental trainer, sports psychologist as their coach, she takes a lot of time at the hack end. She has her drink of water, focuses on the shot, talks to Marianne and Kim about the brushing that's required.
Whoa.
Clean.
Clean all the way.
Clean.
Nice throw. Good shot.
Very nice. That was what Colleen was hoping to do, is to remove that other stone. Didn't bother her in the least.
Наверное, достаточно будет. Да, я тоже думаю. Ну, скалки в слайд, там лучше видно, на самом деле.
Going back to the really swingy side, maybe doesn't hook quite as much as I've shown you, but we do know that that is the turn that will curl the most. And for Olga Yarkova, needs to play the turn that moves the most.
So far, things going according to plan for Colleen in the Team Canada group. Fairly wide open. Last end, it caught a few rocks in play and forced a very tough shot by the Russian skip. She couldn't quite make it. But maybe that shot gave her a little bit of information on draw weight as she tries the freeze.
Только вес! Внимание! Что с весом? Нет!
Только вес,
Нет
девочки,
линии,
пока.
внимание! Вес, да? О, вес! Только
Вес, вес.
Нет, тогда нет.
По линии тоже не надо пока. Валит.
Нет.
You can just see that rock physically warp off the line.
Пожалуйста.
Just a little strong with weight.
That really has been the story so far. Russia has not been able to get the stone in the top of the house, or in this case in the tee line area, just a little bit too deep.
Потом уже бросили. Был бы вообще супер. Ну, как бы, видишь, чуть сильнее был.
And we don't know what the ice is like at the Moscovich Curling Club, but we can assume many of the clubs around the world do not see this kind of speed, and so for the first day, it must be a really tough adjustment.
Like ideally, just a little. What? Yeah, and that she's got to change her turn if she's going to use the backing. Did you stay fully in?
Colleen not wanting to set up a pocket, would like this rock to roll.
Clean only, clean only. Yep. No, no. Whoa, whoa. Yep, yes, yep. Hurry. Over
Whoa,
whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Great shot.
Very nice for Colleen Jones. By sticking right where that Russian stone was, it would have been a really nice back, sort of a pocket that, as Linda said, that the Russian team could have drawn to by rolling. Makes the draw difficult. It's in the forefoot and not a lot of backing. If this rock, as it comes in, stops right there, you can see the pocket, but great brushing by Nancy right on that stone. Very happy with results.
Now, Colleen said before she threw the stone, I'd like it to roll there, stay shot, and maybe she'll take the other turn. She doesn't have to for this draw, but that is what Olga is going to do with this last rock in the third end.
Looking at the ice she's taking, Linda, it's not ice to come down to either stone, quite frankly. I think she's taken ice to wind up in the middle. What that means is that she needs perfect draw weight, and we know that that's about 14 and a half.
Needs to stop, needs to be full forefoot for this point. And you're right, that time of the hog line showed us it's going to go much too far. It is a steal of 2 points this end for Team Canada. The one in the forefoot and the one in the 8-foot will count. And Canada takes the lead 3-0 now over Russia.
That is Lainey's voice. I thought I heard your voice.
That was the shot of the game. It might have been.
The 2003 Ford World Curling Championships from Winnipeg, Manitoba are brought to you in part by Robaxaset, helping you walk away from back pain.
Back at the Winnipeg Arena, heading into the fourth end of play in our first round of the World Curling Championships. You have to think, Kathy, that Colleen Jones must be pleased with not only the score as we see it 3-0, but the fact that she's playing a little bit of an inexperienced team in this first round of play.
I think that she'd be pleased right across the board this morning. Linda, they are playing an inexperienced team. It's their first game, and that's what you like. You like not to have to face one of your toughest opponents right away while you're learning the ice. I think that when we show you statistics after 5, I would bet that they're also playing very well, and that is key.
Может быть, будет нормально.
Anastasia Skulton throwing that lead for Russia. And for Russia, when I talk about inexperience, of course, we're also talking about the way she played that last stone. You and I chatted for a moment. She played the weight for backing, but not the line for backing, changed her turn. Just a tough spot to be in, I guess.
It is true that one of the comments I'd made is that if she was going to be playing down to the backing, she didn't have the right ice for it, and then she's heavy. Very unfortunate.
Yep.
Nancy, a full-time mother.
Whoa.
Whoa.
two very active
Whoa.
young
Clean.
children.
Shot.
And actually, the families, I believe, are also stuck in Toronto. So the team without all the family members to cheer them on, hopefully they'll be able to get here later today as well. Now, this is where I talked about tactics, the game plan, how you approach it. And when I talk about strategy, I say there's always the critical moment when you look at the scoreboard and you know you must draw. And of course, in my opinion, the 3-0 score would dictate that, and they will be playing
Внимание,
ahead.
нет, пока ничего.
I agree 100%. It's
Yeah.
not only the scoreboard, Linda, but it is where the rocks are positioned in the house. There is a stone in the back 8 foot. They can play in front of it, maybe get Canada to drive a stone back. What they're doing is eliminating stones, and really that's not what this game is about down 3 points. It's about putting your own points on the scoreboard.
One of the hard things about strategy to teach is we all do it as people that we like to go out and give clinics and pass on some experience, but until you've been on the ice, until you're like Marianne, where you even played front end for a while with a great team and you've seen the strategy develop, it is hard to pass that on until you're on the ice in that situation.
I would agree, and that's why I often think that skips are born. You're born into that. It's how you think, and it's where you want to be, and you want to throw that last rock. You want control of the house. That's someone like you, a control freak, Linda, versus someone like me that just wants to throw. No thought process whatsoever.
Control freak, you know me pretty well.
Well, you have moved my coffee cup 4 times to the spot that you prefer it to be. And again, the Russian team continuing to hit stones. Yana Nekrasova, a phys ed teacher.
Внимание.
Very young team as well. We've talked about experience, and they do have it at the World Juniors, the university games, but they are very young and have not had a lot of experience at the adult level. Although in world rules, you can start to compete at the age of 16 in the adult ranks, and that's a nice shot.
If we lose that, that's fine.
Looking back on the 4 World Championships that Colleen Jones has played in, 3 with this team and once in 1982. She had 3 wins in her first game. In 2001, which coincidentally is the year she won the world title, she lost her first game to Denmark. In the other 3 occasions, she did have victories.
It is so straight there. I was
and
worried
in every
about
game,
that.
she scored the first
It's
point
so straight there, Marianne.
of the game.
Tough break for Marianne Way. Not sure that she threw the rock that bad. We know that it can be straight, particularly with any up weight. Marianne throwing exactly what Colleen wanted. Unfortunately, it just stayed right there. Removed her own stone and left the Russian stone in the house. A chance, the very first one this game, here in the 4th end for Russia to lie 2.
So with her first one, a nice hit and roll. Now a chance to draw and separate the 2 stones.
Сами тела. Да, можно, да?
Вроде нормально.
Внимание. Да, девочки, да? Да, еще, да, еще.
Good brushing by the front end.
Да.
Good judgments. The first time they've actually had to work to get a stone in the house, and that's a nice moment when you have a chance to see what draw weight looks like.
Great separation of the 2 stones. Kim Kelly will try and hit and roll a little bit.
Kim, a pharmacist at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, too, in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And it was her birthday yesterday. Unfortunately, her family was not here to celebrate with her.
Nice throw, Kim.
But they're with Victor, and where would you rather be?
Let's have a look at what's happening on the other sheets of ice. You can see Denmark has stolen a point against Dorothy Nordby, 2-1. Dorothy Home leading on sheet A. U.S. with a single, nobody able to get more than a single there, leading Italy. And a big 3 by Nicole Strausik from Switzerland, leading Sweden. There's our feature game, Canada with the edge. And Japan also a huge 3-ender, leading 3-1 over Edith Loudon in Scotland.
And we talk about shot selection. A nice stone made there by Russia to lie 2. Again, their option would have been to draw to lie 2 points. Seems to be that it is that hitting game that Olga Jarkova feels the most comfortable with.
It is one of those situations when they've obviously been schooled to try and play their strength. They seem to be quite good at the hitting game, and in a moment they may not have a chance, as we saw Kim Kelly get in the hack for this hit. If she noses it, it could be outside the rings.
And I would suggest you're right there, Linda. It's very, very close.
You realize that's not my job. So.
I'm aware of that.
In the mornings, that will be you, Kathy, judging those biters.
I would suggest she's drawing because that rock is not in the house.
The draw is the good shot, though, as you already said.
It is.
It's a way to place the stone much easier. Kira Ezet.
An aviation student. Interesting career choice. These are all young women, and of course, that's why they were able to participate and win the World University Games. So a huge future. And I expect that we will continue to see these teams over and over again, and in very emblematic of world play, we often see the person that throws the rock coming to sweep, as we've just seen here.
It's funny, though, how often do we see the stone actually doesn't need it, and I'm not a big believer in that. I know they get excited and they so desperately want it to be there, but the stone actually slides a little bit further than they wanted.
There's also the question of how much effect it actually is by the time you have 3 sweepers. We'll see Kira here really wanting to make this shot, knows there's a chance to lie 2, and you'll see that she comes out and she is about maybe 3 feet in front of that actual stone, and you do really wonder how much effect it does have on the stone.
I know my team used to suggest that it actually slowed it down regardless of where I was brushing, but no, you're right. They say within 6 feet you make a difference. After that, you're really not having a big impact on the stone.
Colleen looking to remove the stone. The double is possible for sure, but certainly the hit and roll is also possible for Colleen.
Colleen, of course, works for CBC TV Morning News World. She does sports and weather.
Just hits a little bit thin.
Pretty close, Colleen.
Yeah, no, it was good draw. Miriam just had big weight on hers over here. And a little full.
Referring to,
yeah. I mean, does seem to be a little straighter
it is
there
without a
than
doubt
over here.
straighter,
Yeah.
without a doubt. But there is, it's not like it's.
interesting reference to Marianne Way's earlier miss in this end, and that rock of Colleen's curling a little bit, not surprising. Nancy Delahunt and Colleen feeling that she'd thrown just a little bit less weight and that it will move. And I think, Linda, that those things are important for a skip, that even when you don't make the perfect shot, you understand why and know that next time where the ice would be.
A great chance for Olga Jarkova to put a second stone into the rings. Always a little nervous when this rusher's back right off it, and she has been strong on all of her draws so far. Ooh, just hangs on as a biter.
And because that is the open stone and the shot stone for the Russian team is hidden behind the guard, Colleen has a 3-point lead. She will eliminate the stone that is wide open at the back of the house.
That's why it was so important for that stone to stop, no matter where it was. You knew if it was in the rings, Colleen was hitting it.
Doesn't really matter. Well. Little straighter right here, where Marianne came.
Yes! Hard! Hurry hard! Hard, guys!
You're fine, you're fine.
Hard!
mission accomplished for Team Canada.
How often do you see that, though, Kathy, where Colleen got into the hack, and rightly so, told the brushers about the spot of ice, but as soon as you say it, a little bit straighter here. How often do you see maybe the player was a little bit inside on that throw?
It was a surprising comment at that time to hear from someone with the experience of Colleen Jones.
I mean, I guess it doesn't
A little bit of a rollout means an open house for Russia to try and get their second point. Just need to hit the paint for this shot.
A different turn, but it is the same shot for Olga Jarkova.
Любую часть дома, девочки, начал. По-моему, не надо. О, повес, по-моему, не надо. О,
Нет, нет, нет.
14 to 14 and a half.
She has really struggled. This one looks a little bit slower, but it's starting to keen up down that center path, and it has to stop. It has to be in the paint.
девочки, я
And
побежала.
again,
Молодцы.
just holds on to the back of the house, but that is a big two
Девочки, я в
for
одно место. Я
Russia.
скоро приду, ладно?
Couple of nice shots, a nice hit and roll, a good come around, and that leads to the extra point for Olga Jarkova and the team from Russia.
Ага.
We're in Winnipeg for these 2003 Forward World Curling Championships. The snow has stopped, and it isn't a bad day. Actually, the clouds are starting to clear a little bit as we bring you an update on Sheet A. It is Dorte Nordby in Norway with the hammer against Denmark. This is the last rock. You can see one red stone. That's the Norwegian stone on the edge of the 8-foot. And this looks like it is a draw for two for Dorte Nordby. Two-time world champ. We expect a lot of big things from Dorte, who also won the bronze medal last year over Canada. One of those wins was right here in 1991, and that is a 2-point end for Dorte. And she will take the lead, and that is one team we do expect to see rock
You
soon
bet.
play. She loves it. And there you see it is the U.S. with the lead over Italy. Debbie McCormick, 3-1 leading Diana Gaspari. Switzerland still leading 3-1. That's Nicole Strausik over Annette Nordberg at the moment. There's our feature game. Russia with the big deuce in the fourth end, getting within one of Colleen Jones. And Japan, another steal. So you see Shinobu Iota with the lead over Edith Loudon in Scotland.
And back here on our feature sheet for Colleen Jones, it is the first time this game she will have last rock advantage. The Russian team throwing a tight guard, and that red stone that you see in the 4-foot thrown there by Nancy Delahunt on her first.
Внимание, нет. Да, может, да?
The call here was to corner freeze onto the red stone belonging to Canada.
Носи просто.
Quite a nice shot to come around near the face of that red rock.
I don't mind a little bump there, Nance, either.
That last end must give Russia a little bit of a boost. They made a very nice
Yeah.
hit and
Throw
roll, as
them
I
the same
mentioned, and a
weight.
good draw,
Yeah.
a come around. Set up the deuce.
No question that this game is definitely on now by Russia placing their stone where it is. For Colleen Jones and the Canadian women's team cannot get to the face of it. So this is about setting up Nancy's second stone to create some angles.
Got room.
And of course, the Fort Rock rule, that
What?
yellow stone out in front cannot be removed until we get to the second stones.
Well, we got too big a rough, but it's a daisy.
And definitely not what they wanted from that.
And that is all weight.
Можно стеем даже сюда.
For the Russian team, because of how hard that stone was hit, Nancy's stone is fully exposed. The Russian team will try to remove that. And then two of their yellow stones would be in very good position. If you follow numbers for Colleen Jones and her team, any time that they have been up 3 or more times in World Championship play, their record has been 15-1 So can she hold a lead? That would suggest that she can.
Well, then they're just gonna bang, bang, bang to sit 3. We do.
It's a great little shot, a roll in front of second shot rock. So you see the 3 yellows lined up in a nice position in front of the red stone that's in the 4-foot.
Colleen obviously not comfortable with that setup.
Thinking of hitting and rolling in. Yeah, I don't mind that, Colleen.
I think we have to.
Yeah, I agree.
See if you can get that stone to the top of the 12-foot. Certainly possible. Also would open up the front and allow Colleen to get at those yellow stones. She is shot, it is true, but those 2 yellow stones belonging to Russia will become a problem for her.
Throw, Marianne. Shot.
Yeah.
Marianne Waystone rolls out, but does open up the shot stone and the 2 yellows.
We couldn't hit it.
And now a decision of when to make the play by Russia. Do you move the rocks around now?
Средним.
Very clearly, that's what they would like to do right now.
Решение близко, кстати, тогда стороной можно будет сделать потом.
And we're going to take a little peek over right next door, sheet C, as you can see that Sweden is facing a lot of yellow stones. Nicole Strausek skipping for Switzerland. It's actually Selina Brulot throwing 4 stones for that Swiss team.
Just up at the top, you saw the contact made by the Russian team to lie 3.
And here's Annette Norberg of Sweden in the bottom left. And you can see she is throwing a quiet shot. She cannot see very much of shot stone. There are a lot of guards out in front. She has to sneak around the guard, try to make a little draw or tap on shot rock.
And she is facing 3, Linda.
And I don't think that's going to come in. And so we'll have to count them up. I think they're indicating it is a steal of 3 for Switzerland. Definitely the 2. And Nicole Strausek, wow, what a great start for Switzerland as Annette Norberg. Kathy mentioned that Swedish team. Annette Norberg has medaled in every appearance of the World Championships. They're a very strong team. And Switzerland really has them down now.
And back here on our feature sheet, a great shot, or a great chance rather, for Marianne Wade to remove multiple stones. The 3 Russian stones were lined up. Couldn't remove all 3, but 2 for sure. Either overthrew it or too much ice, but hit just a very thin piece. Removed the top one. Russia continues to lie 2.
It was interesting too, Kathy, looking at that update on sheet C, that it definitely appeared that that one side of their sheet was straighter. She needed that to curl like crazy past the guard to have any chance of getting the 4-foot, and it did not move.
It didn't, and she had very nice weight, Linda. We're right behind that sheet. They were coming right at where Linda and I are sitting, and she probably couldn't have thrown that any better. It makes you wonder if there's something about that side of the sheet. But boy, those ladies are in big trouble, down 6-1 going into their 5th end. There are the 3 Russian stones for Olga Jarkova and her team without last rock. That stone, if it's in front of the house acting as a guard, they have Canada in all kinds of trouble. But instead, for Kim Kelly, trying to hit half, maybe remove 2.
Hurry! Roll your shooter. Great shot.
That's a good shot, Kim.
Well, they weren't going very far, but at least she got them opened up. Spilled the 2 yellows, so they're now one in front of the other, and the shooter stays in the ring, so Russia will be dealing with that.
Stay.
Still our game looking like it's a little more open. As we mentioned, Sweden, they did give up 3, so that now they are down 6-1, and there have been a lot more rocks in play as the game has progressed next door and also on some of the other sheets.
And one of the reasons, Linda, I would suggest for that is not only Colleen's preferred style of play, but the reality is that for the Canadian teams in this event, they are the only teams that are not used to competing with the 4-rock rule, and they don't tend to use the guard game as much, and with Colleen herself using it probably less than many other teams that would come from Canada.
No! Kim Kelly with a hit facing three. We do talk, though, Kathy, that sometimes when we arrive at these World Championships, we don't see the four-rock rule used as it can be. And yet we are looking across some of the sheets, and I do think Doherty Nordby for sure is going to do it. But I do think some of the other teams are showing us a little bit more than we've seen in past years. A few guards are being placed out there right across the sheets.
I agree, and I don't know whether that's a move to having more events. We had the Continental Cup in Canada this year where it was the Worlds against Team North America. There are more and more events, and the teams are realizing that the level and the playing field is getting a lot more equal than it used to be. So how do you beat someone that is close to your level? Well, you make them make the toughest shot that you can make them. And how do you do that? Well, you have rocks in play.
Definitely a little switch in momentum here as Olga Jarkova attempts a hit. She will be sitting three if she makes it. After making a draw last end to get her deuce and get within one of Team Canada.
And if we think back to the outset of this end, how we got into this situation, it was in fact a great shot by Nancy Delahunt, but that was countered by a very good placement of a Russian stone in front of it. And it's not about being shot, it's where you put your stones and the angles that got the Canadians in trouble.
You could still play like a hit and a roll off of this guy or off that guy. Yeah, I do like this guy, getting rid of this guy. Okay.
This is also a good option.
Colleen Jones looking to play an in-turn hit and try and get that little roll as Nancy Delahunt holds the room for her.
You can see that the way that the stones are, Linda, they're so flat right across here. The double opportunities really aren't there. So you hit and roll. This is the choice that she's making. Would like to force play over there if she can. The other option, of course, is to remove the stone over here.
There's not a lot of places to roll to, I guess.
This could be one of those ends where you just have to get through it and realize that Russia made the two early shots, got Colleen in trouble. Now you just need to get out of the situation with your single.
Hurry! Hard! Hard! Whoa! Okay, good throw.
Whoa. Does it ever come up there? Yeah.
Now that's not to be unexpected, though. You've told us, Kathy, and we've seen that the outside in turn on that side of the sheet is straighter, so quite often we see the opposite when you switch turns.
You do indeed. With Canada lying second shot, Olga Jarkova will try to remove it. And for Colleen, thinking back at this end where she will have some comfort is that she will have a wide open shot on her last rock. Here's the shot stone. Great chance for Russia to lie three and put a lot of pressure for the very first time this game against the Canadian team led by Colleen Jones.
Not bad numbers for Olga so far in this game.
Whoa!
Да!
Да! Whoa!
Да! Да! Еще!
Да.
Successfully removed.
Вообще, как бы Оля показала, что он туда чуть-чуть.
Ты не будешь вытирать, что ли? Кот пошла. Я говорю, ты не будешь вытирать камень?
Буду, ладно. А что ты кричала? Нет, я не поняла.
Ну, нормально, шоу.
She is throwing the side of the sheet that really swings. You can see they've moved the broom way over to try and get the draw to the 4-foot area.
Well, for Colleen, that's the shot. It's the draw. She could remove this stone, but to hit and roll out is not a comfort zone. She needs to hit full 8-foot. She's in a world championship. She should be able to do this, although it is only her second draw of this game.
taking a little extra time on this one. This is one of those momentum shots. If you can get that single, get that momentum back, it'll be big heading into the fifth end break.
Full 8.
We've talked earlier, the times have come down a bit. 14 should be very good for Colleen.
Wow, they're trying to carry this. They need to be 8 foot to get the single.
Great sweep.
This is where you say thank you, Marianne Way and Kim Kelly.
Just looks like they got shot rock, and they took that right out of her hand.
One
and
red, yep.
scrubbed the whole way.
Thought her eyes
It is
when you
a
were down
single
there
for
singing
Team
this big
Canada.
swing, like
Colleen
our eyes
Jones
was a little
just
tight.
getting the rock into the 8 foot far enough to get that point.
You saw those huge numbers when she came across the hog line. She was high 15s. We know that shouldn't get you there. Couldn't get you to the 4 foot, but for Colleen Jones, all she needed was full 8 foot. And these two ladies, Kim Kelly, Marianne Way, never left this stone for 1 second, Linda. And boy, they needed it.
They needed every inch. And you almost curled onto the Yellowstone. That would have dragged some speed off of it. But they got it there. It is a single for Colleen Jones, and they do take the lead 4-2 heading into the fifth end break.
Oh my goodness.
And we look at the teams playing in this game. Anastasia Skulton throwing lead rocks for Russia. Nancy Delahunt for Canada. You have Yana Nekrasova and Marianne Way throwing second stones. Kira Eza and Kim Kelly are the thirds, and skips from the Moscovich Curling Club in Moscow, Olga Jarkova, and from the Mayflower in Halifax, Colleen Jones.
And by Ford, built for life in Canada.
Well, Kathy, a very familiar landmark, the Golden Boy.
It is in the Legislative Building. He's up on top looking for Victor.
Canada with the lead over Russia, 4-2 the score. The first round of play, as you see Japan, same score, 4-2, leading Scotland over on sheet E. There's our feature game. Colleen Jones with the lead. Nice single in 5. Sweden, boy, look at that second 3 for Nicole Strausick in Switzerland. Big lead in the fifth end. And Debbie McCormick of the U.S. with the lead over Diana Gaspari, heading into the 6th. And on the first sheet of ice, Dorothy Nordby, and look at the rocks in play.
Wow.
3-2 the score over Denmark. And we'll be back with the 6th end of play. There he is.
He's got his torch. Find the plane. Where's the TSN team?
This afternoon, the men will take to the ice. Canada playing Germany in the first round of play for the men, but this morning it's the women. Canada now leading Russia 4-2 with a single in 5. All 5 sheets in play, meaning of course no buys in any round. We'll see all the teams every draw. And when we talk about rocks in play, this is very familiar territory for Dorothy Nordby as she takes on Denmark and Dorte Holm and Kathy. Boy, interesting position for these two teams when you're trying to find a way into the 4 foot.
Unbelievable. And for Dorothy Nordby on her last shot, made a great in-off to get in there. Those are the shots that Dorothy seems to like, and that's now why the team from Denmark has to try to find a way in as well.
Redstone at the back of the 4 foot, but the Yellowstone looks like it is a little bit closer. She was trying to chip a second one in. It is a single for Denmark. Dorte Holm ties it up with Dorothy Nordby, but Nordby takes the hammer to 6. And a little bit of a momentum change maybe. It looked like Russia was starting to get a lot of confidence first of all, but making some very nice shots in that 5th end. Nancy Delahunt held the broom, Colleen through the draw, and these two sweepers took that rock and got it there.
No question about that. This team is very strong. They're good judgers, good sweepers, good throwers. But what we've seen, I think, Linda, is the first 3 ends, both teams were going through the motions of playing this game we call curling. In the last 2 ends, we have seen the Russian team make some really good shots. We've seen the Canadian team have to make some shots. Both skips forced to make some pretty big draws. There is a 2-point advantage for Team Canada right now, but I think that Russia is starting to feel much more comfortable out here this morning. And I think we've got a good second 5 ahead of us.
Линия отлично.
Мне 66.
Now here's a little bit of a switch. They had the advantage of the 5th end break where they could talk to their coach.
Вес. Что с
And they're
весом?
now going to play the freeze attempt rather than hit that rock.
Нет, не надо.
Любимый, стой,
Нормально,
дорогой.
Настя, только посильнее.
Любимый.
Не бойся.
Just a
это
little bit
самое, можешь
strong.
сделать тебя удобно.
Looks like the
wait
line
again.
might be all right. And it's that time. It's time to look at the numbers after 5, brought to you by True Value. Kathy?
But one of the things I said that I thought Colleen was going to take some comfort from was the way that her team is playing. And let's look at that column under the Canadian flag, 92% on the draw. That's the biggest difference. We know it's quick. The Canadians have picked that up much more so than the Russians so far. Overall, though, both teams in the 80s, you got to be happy with your first game at the Worlds and your first 5 ends when you're in the 80s.
Just 12 foot.
Now, the one interesting thing is that Yellowstone is sneaking around that red rock. It is protected by the red stone, so Colleen couldn't hit it. Even if she wanted to, she'd have to try some sort of fancy shot. That's something to keep in mind as this end progresses.
Team Russia looking to remove both of those Canadian stones. Half will do it.
Да, еще. Да, хорошо. О, да. Да, девочка, да, еще, да,
Anastasia
да,
Skulton
да,
with
еще,
the
еще,
hit.
еще, еще, еще. Да, еще.
Да-да-да.
Not a bad shot. She
Not at all.
squeezes it by that little biter at the back. So although they are shot stone, Russia has second and third shot.
For Colleen, the first goal is the stone that Marianne's looking at the top of the house. If she's able to remove both, that's fine. But for Colleen, this is all about the stone at the top of the house and leaving her shooter in play.
Hurry, 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 hurry.
Good. Good shot.
Linda, your stone remains.
A little outside biter. Now this is where the strategy changes a little bit. And that's because we've been saying that if you're behind, you need to draw, but they are trying to bring into play that biter at the back. And so Yana is being asked to hit and roll in behind the Canadian stone.
I don't disagree at all with this call. I think that if you're going to try to utilize the stones that are yours, and you're right, that one at the back of the house can be a factor, you can't afford to leave a lot of the Canadian stones around.
Воу, 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 воу.
Возьмешь?
It's 5 sheets of ice of women's play this morning. This afternoon, Randy Ferbey takes to the ice against Germany. And Randy Ferbey, David Nedow, Scott Pfeiffer, Marcel Rock have been so strong over the past few years. They do face Andreas Lang and the German team.
And that Andreas Lang team beat Andy Kapp, a very strong German team in the final. So we expect that to be a great outing for the Canadian squad and the German squad this afternoon.
Whoa.
It's really a bit of an unknown team from Germany. We've seen
Great
Sebastian
shots.
Stock, we've seen Andy and Uli Kapp. We've known those players quite a bit, but this is
What
a
a key
newer
shot.
team to head into the world stage.
Olga looking very closely at that top red one and the back yellow one. You can see from this great shot that it is in fact the Canadian stone at the top of the house that is second shot.
Как у тебя получилось, я не знаю.
Внимание, что с весом? Нет, внимание. Да,
Trying to get that inside roll yet again.
да, девочки, еще.
A little bit of a roll, not quite far enough.
Regular.
Hit and roll in front of it's good.
And there's the scores to keep you up to date. We showed you the fact that Norway has the hammer in a tie game. U.S. leading,
Yep.
Switzerland leading, although Sweden came
Whoa.
back with a deuce.
Whoa. Double. Whoa. Yep.
And Japan
Yep.
still with the
No,
lead
we
over
missed it.
Scotland.
There's our shooter, though.
No, we
Good
didn't.
shot.
Listen, tell her, Nancy, that is quite firm on this ice.
Nice
That
shot.
weight,
Got rid of
firm.
both of those
Yes,
yellow
yes,
stones.
I agree. Yeah, let her know.
Good communications with Colleen and Nancy and the team, and that is such an important part of any great team. For Kim Kelly having just thrown that stone, you know, when someone like Kim throws, she tends to throw up weight to begin with for hits, and when you're throwing on ice that can be up to 15 on draw weight, it is so easy to overthrow a stone. And even though it may not look that hard, what Colleen is saying is that she's just not icing Kim forward, and it's difficult to keep the shooter about telling each other maybe why you're rolling out.
Russia now just looking to try and get through the end, as the end they were trying to build just is no longer possible. That little biter at the back meant they had a chance for a deuce, not so anymore.
Should be good.
We've talked about the experience level of the Russian team. So, Kathy, when you look at this first game for Colleen Jones and the team, how important is it to continue the good play, to continue to keep the pressure on, and to come out of this game feeling like this is the way we want to start this event?
I think it's huge. I think that when you start a competition, it's nice not to have to play the toughest team, but to me, it's about doing all of the right things. It's about judging rocks really well. It's about finding draw weight and keeping it. It's about reading the ice and really leaving this game, hopefully with the big W, but feeling that regardless of who you would have played, you would have won because you did the right things and you kept to your game plan. And I think that for Colleen Jones and her team so far, that they have demonstrated that they're doing all of those things.
Now, when you were in this position, curling in a big championship, a world championship, what personally did you want to take out of the first game?
Well, I think it was very different for me in my first one in 92 versus 95. In 92, it was such a new experience. I wanted to take out of the first game the fact I'd made it through alive and made some contribution. And then in 95, the first game, it was those things, Linda. As a front-end player, I wanted to feel that when Connie had a big shot to make, that as a front-end player, we would judge it properly and that we wouldn't make mental mistakes, and that I would find draw weight and find the right hit weight. The little things that really do help your team do the right things during the course of the week.
The play has turned out to be wide open, just the one rock now in the house that Colleen will be hitting.
Yep. Whoa, clean. Just clean.
Nice weight.
Great. Grand, yes.
Early in this end, it looked as though there might be a lot of rocks in play. Canada lying two a variety of times. Russia hitting to lie first and third a lot. Was a double and roll out by Marianne Way that really eliminated a lot of stones, and we find ourselves now with skip stones just very wide open. Both teams would be fine with that. For the Russian team, they know that this end has pretty much gone by. They will need to start to use the four-guard zone, Linda, I think at some point, and we're going into 7.
Well, if you think back to how Russia got their deuce, remember, it was a nice roll, but it wasn't a frozen stone that Marianne Way then missed hitting out of the rings, and that's how they generated the extra point. Can't expect that to happen too many times against this team, Colleen Jones's team. Do you think that the fact that a lot of this game has been wide open is a little bit of a detriment to Colleen, though? I used to think the one thing I'd like early in round robin play is the chance to challenge myself, to be prepared.
No, I'll throw a little bit more.
Every team here, as you've mentioned, is getting better and better, and you know you have to be pretty good every time you step on the ice. And I wanted to be ready to make a pretty key draw, maybe a good freeze or a come around. And so far, Colleen's only really, I guess, been tested the once when she was facing 3 last end, but the house was pretty wide open.
Well, the first thing I'd say, if you wanted to be tested, you should have invited me to play with you. The second thing is that there probably are half and half skips. I think that there are those like you, Linda, that really want to feel that when they go to their second game, they've made some big shots. But I think that there may be just as many who really look at the first game as very different from all others. It's so new, you've been waiting for the Worlds, the adrenaline sometimes is a little bit out of control. You've been here for a couple of days and you just want to play the game. Both skips out here, though, have made some big draws. And for Colleen Jones, if she's going to have to make some big shots this week, it's the draws, and she's already made one.
It was a nice throw. I thought it was your weight when I heard
Colleen
it.
later today do take on Norway, and you have to expect that Doherty Norby will put those rocks in play against Colleen. So it is Russia throwing the last rock, and looks like trying to get the blank. Olga Jarkova with the outturn hit. Needs to roll it.
Kira working hard.
And it will not go. Stays as a little biter on the edge. So they creep within 1. It was the blank attempt, but you know with the 4-rock rule, Colleen has to be careful because Russia can put those rocks out in front.
Yes, it's just a win, not.
You wish.
We're in Winnipeg, and Kathy, where would we be right there?
You would be on the corner of Portage and Main.
Hey. Later today, we're going to be checking out Formula One. Now, Vic's not here, but we know that this is something he loves. Qualifying Brazilian Grand Prix later today, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern.
If you're a Canadian race car fan, you hope that Jacques Villeneuve's car will run this weekend.
Yeah, but it's been an interesting season with
fantastic
Schumacher not heading up I think it's the last 2, isn't it? He's been down the list.
He has not won either, that's for sure.
Russia with the single, and so we're heading into 7 and just the 1-point lead for Canada.
Canadian teams with that rock very tight to the house cannot be removed with the 4-guard rule. And so for Olga Jarkova and her team, there is only a 1-point spread for sure, but without last rock, again, Linda, you think that at some point in the next 3 ends, she's going to have to make the decision to really try to take it to the Canadian team.
Только вес, внимание, вес. Да, девочки, да, еще хорошо, еще, отлично, да, девочки, да, вес, да.
Нормально повесу.
This is the part of the 4-rock rule that really interests me. The call is the come around, and it's a very nice shot. But we're going to see, I think, in some circumstances where people will actually play that one again out in front.
I agree.
Well,
don't forget that one of the things about the 4-guard game that is different from what we usually see in Canada is that you can remove your own. You can use your stone to drive it back. Things that you would not see at a Breyer or a Scott, you will see at the Worlds, and that's why I think that many times we will see, or we should see, more teams using the guard zone and throwing up their rocks with guards.
Nice run back, made contact with the rock in behind, left the guard out in front, so Russia will make another attempt at the come around. We were chatting last week, Kathy, during the World Junior play about the shot that we will see next. We've talked about the run back being the big shot right now. In my opinion, as Four Rock rule appears to be coming to Canada next season,
Можно по
with the
линии,
rule
да?
change, the incorporation of the world rules and Canadian rules into
Да,
one rule
девочки,
book,
что с весом?
that the
Надо,
placement
да,
of
еще.
guards and the movement of guards, the tapping, the rolling in off, just the maneuvering is going to be the next shot that we see.
I agree, and one of the drills that we used to practice all the time was a drill called Las Vegas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but you line stones up in front of the house, all 8 stones, and the objective of the drill is to tap those stones in the house, and you get points according to where you tap them. Anything sort of T-line and beyond, you get 0, and that's a great drill for young teams to start to practice those finesse games. It's not about running rocks back, and it's not about tapping rocks hard. It's about finding what it takes to just move stones that every little bit into the house, and that's a great drill for what you see as the future, Linda.
Yep. Hurry.
Russian stone comes up short, so Marianne Way will try and peel it off.
Hurry, hurry, hurry.
Okay, and she does. Russian team again trying to utilize that Canadian stone that's in front of the house to protect one of theirs if they're able to get in.
Yana Nekrasova.
Девочки, да, линия.
Линия
Что с
наглядно.
весом? Да. Вес. Да.
Russian team trying to teach me a little bit of Russian last night at the opening banquet. But after the toasting the piper with the scotch, it was just not going to happen.
No chance. Not even a hello?
Внимание,
Or
да.
Yet.
Oh, there you go.
Да, 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 еще.
Very nice.
Finding draw weight.
Marianne, just regular.
And one of the advantages of that red stone for Team Canada being so tight to the house is that it does make these run backs much more possible.
Whoa, whoa.
Clean.
Whoa. Whoa. Great shot.
Shot, Marianne.
That was a 9.45, Kim. But I mean, that looked like control almost, yeah.
Nice shot, runs it back, leaves the red stone in the rings. It isn't buried though, so Russia will play the hit and roll.
Da, 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 da.
For Kira Ezef, for sure, it is a wide open shot, but very much looking for that roll. This is the side of the sheet that tends to curl a little bit more.
Не, вал не надо, сильно очень.
We're seeing that consistently, Linda, on that one side. If you see the rock starting to move, you have waited too long.
Yeah, perfect, beautiful. Should be good. Weight's good.
Close for line, yep.
Whoa. Weight's fine.
Whoa.
Kim Kelly with the same out-turn draw attempt.
It's T on its own. Sit.
Just sliding a little bit.
Good, Kim. 70. You know, it's just that.
Сколько там? 8.
By Kim sliding behind the tee line, and with that tight guard, it is a super opportunity for the Russian team to not only get behind that guard, but to be in front of the Canadian stone. A huge shot here for Russia. Anywhere in front of that red stone is the right spot.
А что ты хочешь спалать, на самом деле? Что там нет, там грязь, она, смотри, сильно идет, да.
Нормально, нормально.
Sort of been the story of the game today, just that little bit too much weight.
Шиш, давай.
Пошире, сильнее.
Yeah. And it really does let the Canadian team off the hook in this particular end, Linda. Had she been in front of that stone, would have been tougher for Kim Kelly here. Through the first one, she knows what draw weight is, throwing a little bit less in front. If she can be top 4 foot or even 8 foot, the Russian team is going to be in a little bit of difficulty. And keep in mind, they didn't make the blank last end. They did lose last rock.
Full 8, full 8.
We're there.
Nice shot, Kim.
Great shot.
Nicely done.
Canada line 2 as we check in on sheet A. Norway playing Denmark. The score is tied. But look at this. Dorte Nordby is about to throw her last rock, and count them. 1, 2, 3 in the house so far. This is a draw for 4 for Norway and Dorte Nordby. And with all those rocks in play, it's obvious they've made a lot of key shots this end. With the game so close, this could blow it wide open. Needs a piece of the 4 foot. And look at that. She's comes got down her own stone, and there is 4. 7-3 now, the lead for Dorte Nordby in Norway.
She is very much a crowd favorite in this building, not only because she won it the last time she was here in 1991, but she is very animated. She loves to play to the crowd and the big shot, and the crowd loves her for it.
You know, sometimes the question for someone like Dorte in her 15th appearance, I think it is this year, is she motivated? Maybe this is the year that we really see Dorte pour it on. What a great start for her. Russia now facing 2, top 4, back 4, belonging to Canada.
This is a really precise shot, trying to get around the one that's at the top of the 4 and tuck it half behind.
A beautiful attempt.
Really nice weight, Linda. Just didn't hook enough for her, and that's the side of the sheet that we are seeing doesn't finish quite as hard. Very nice weight.
Ну, вроде бы девчонка вообще всем как бы так стояла.
Как бы Бина стояла, только что, когда на нас привезла, так реально вообще?
Бина ужинала, ну, понятно.
Now let's check on sheet B. U.S. had the big lead against Italy, but look, red stones belong to Italy, back house, top house. This is a double by Diana Gaspari. If she can make it, she can tie this game. It really is just a nose hit. If she hits the first one right, she will move them far enough to get the 3. The curl out of the Cortina Club, and she will not. Look at this. It's got to stop now. And it won't stop in time either. So, oh, little swirl back
maybe
in.
it will.
Wait a minute. Let's have another look here.
No, I think it hooked back, but it just too far. Wow, what a great opportunity she did have there, Linda.
There will be a single, it looks like, for the U.S., and they will take a 4-point lead on sheet B.
Yep. For Colleen Jones, this is about eliminating that Russian stone. Would really like to roll her shooter one way or the other and not allow the Russian team to replace it. Nice shot. What a great shot.
Pistol, Colleen.
Thanks.
Beautiful throw.
Что, можешь пробить лучше?
What a nice position for Canada. This is where you throw the rock. Once it makes contact, look at the position of these 3 stones in the 4 foot. You just say, your turn.
Well, she makes the double and the roll was the huge part of this shot. You'll watch this rock scooch right inside here. That takes away that freeze, that draw on the back shot. She, Colleen Jones, has got Russia in all kinds of trouble.
Colleen with just the point lead at the moment, but this could be the end. This could crack it open. Really only one shot that I see, and that's taking the curl and trying to draw to that back one.
No question about it, Linda. Colleen's great shot has blocked this side off completely. All that she has left the Russian team is to swing way out there and hope like crazy that it's going to do exactly what I'm showing you, that it's going to hook in there.
Слушайте, или пробить, я не знаю, как бы можно пробить или попробовать привести.
Part of the problem may be actually that the curl is so hard at the end, it's going to be difficult to get by the stones in the top of the 4 foot. No, she's changing her mind. She's going back to the hit.
And her theory here, Linda, is that if she's able to drive the top stone straight back onto this back one, it is true that she would be here and not shot, but she's thinking maybe it's about eliminating points, force Colleen to draw to the forefoot for 2 points. The draw is a really difficult shot. I'm not surprised, given what we've seen to be her strength, that she's playing the hits.
Olga Jarkova just trying to eliminate stones here as Canada sits 3.
Фига себе, он со стыком отваливает.
And she will not remove the second
Да,
stone.
извини,
Got
мне
the
уже
one out.
показалось, он взял и отвалил.
But Canada has 2 and has a draw for 3.
Тебе уже не показалось?
А?
Уже не показалось?
Мне нет.
Да, мне показалось уже, он...
Really, the key shot earlier you pointed out, Kathy, was when Russia had the chance to make a freeze on a rock in the back of the forefoot. They just didn't get it there. And things turned around on a nice hit and roll by
And the
Colleen.
weight, it's like that. Yeah.
This is a big extra point for Colleen. If she's able to score 3,
Okay, control 5 here, right?
puts her in really great shape going in to the very late ends of this game.
Just point out again that there is a guard out in front, and both times that Canada's had the most rocks in the rings has come on getting a front stone up and making a couple of key shots behind it. Draw for 3 and a big lead for Team Canada if Colleen can put this anywhere in the paint.
Line's great. We've seen the times come down a little bit earlier. You could throw 15. We've seen it be 14, 14-2. She's making her team work today, but she doesn't need forefoot. She needs paint, and she has it all day long.
Great shot, Colleen. I got a 15-1. 3.
A great end,
Beautiful.
some
Your
very
first
nice
one was
shots by
the new
Colleen
shot
and
of
the
the game.
team.
That little
And now the lead is extended to 4 points
It's pretty.
over Russia, who have the hammer in 8. Let's look at the key shot of that last end, brought to you by Robaxaset, Kathy.
Well, I think that Colleen's made some big shots. She certainly made a great hit and roll in the third, but this was absolutely her best so far this outing. She is not in huge trouble, but she faces one, and with this shot, she eliminates every possibility for Russia, makes the double, and most importantly, the roll. And what does that mean? That means that Russia cannot make a shot as good as Colleen's, gives her a free draw for 3, and for Colleen, no doubt about it, puts it in the paint, Linda, and now has a 7-3 lead in this first game in this World Championship.
And a little bit of breathing room for Colleen Jones and his team from the Mayflower and Halifax. Heading into the 8th end, Russia with the hammer, but they're going to have to pour it on to try and score enough points to get close in this game.
So was that top 12, Colleen? Yep.
Yep.
And this is what we were talking about, the confidence that you'd like to take out of the first game.
Should be plenty,
often
guys.
comes when you can get some multiple scores. We've seen Canada now steal. In the third end, they stole 2 points. And last end, they got the big score of 3.
Yep.
And again, one of the things that we take out of this, Linda, is how well you play. And I think we're about to see that the teams are playing very well.
Good.
Let's look at the leads, and these player comparisons brought to you by Best Western.
For Nancy Delahunt, always a great player. For Colleen, some really strong numbers in this first performance. Anastasia not playing poorly, but when you're playing someone like Nancy, who is setting up the ends and scoring at 91% overall, you got to know for Team Canada that you're in great shape when you start each end.
But truly, that wasn't a bad number for Anastasia.
No.
We've talked about the fact that they don't have the same level of experience, and so perhaps the benchmark of what they're pleased with leaving this game is a little bit different. 78%, that's a respectable number.
It is indeed, and you have to also believe, Linda, that for the Russian team, they will look at this start as being one of the toughest that they could face. They are facing an opponent that they know is a former world champion and that stands a very good chance to medal or win this event. And so for them, they will take a lot out of this game, and one of them is a strong performance percentage-wise.
Tried to. Sorry, thank you, Kim.
They put up a corner guard. It actually curled a long way. It's not really going to provide much protection if you get behind it. Marianne Way will then remove the guard on the other side of the rings that is in a better position.
Whoa.
Nice shot.
Good shot. Nice one.
Well, the advantage, surprisingly enough, is absolutely for the Russian team. Yana Nekraskova at 88%. Look at her numbers for hitting, and it's second. That usually is a strength at 96. Have seen some struggles for Marianne Way. Saw a little bit of a blip on the screen at the Scott this year. Nothing wrong with 77%, but when we have seen Marianne consistently in the high 80s and the 90s, I would say that it is a surprise this morning that she is 11 percentage points behind her opponent.
And I think in particular when you see that it is her hitting game that is the bit of an issue. We've heard today Colleen say that maybe the weight hasn't been as consistent, maybe a little bit of a release problem, a bit outside on some of the interns. But normally that is a strength for Marianne.
Notice that with Marianne, she's got that little bit of an in-out motion sometimes on her release. And even though the ice curls very much for draws, it does run straight with hits. So a little bit of extra weight, a little bit in-out, or a combination of the two means a lot of hitting and rolling out, and in one case, a miss entirely.
And it sure doesn't look like either of those.
Now this is where we refer back to the strategy and the game plan that you might have if you were down 4 points this late in the game. You might be tapping these rocks back as opposed to trying and play the hit and roll.
I don't think there's any question, Linda, that in the eighth end, teams with more experience would be maneuvering those rocks. They would be trying to keep them in play, but promoting them back to the back of the house, allowing a chance for a jam with a hit. It's an all or nothing shot. And what Russia's saying is that they need a complete miss from Canada.
And she's calling for peel weight.
And the reason that she is there is not a lot of separation between those two stones. For Team Canada, rolling this rock out, even taking the red one out that's in the 4-foot is an absolutely fine shot.
It just crosses so much better than the other way, eh? Nice shot. You know, that as opposed to that line this way.
Some huge numbers, a 20-point spread between the 2/3, and for Kim Kelly, wow, those are big numbers, Linda.
Not a great start to the week. We've seen her be MVP at the Scott Tournament of Hearts, and we expect great numbers from Kim, but 90s is a bit maybe more than we would expect in the first game. Getting used to the ice.
And not wanting to take away anything from these players, but the one thing that I would say about the percentages this morning is that if you were to factor a degree of difficulty into it, they have been relatively low. It has been a wide open hitting game, and we would expect at this level that the numbers would be very high.
Colleen, I'm sure quite happy to see Russia continue with the hitting game. She'll just spread these stones out. I mentioned that last year it wasn't this kind of game. It was a very close game. Colleen Jones going to an extra end against Olga Jarkova, and in the extra end there was a lot of rocks in play, and Colleen had to try and hit and stay. Almost rolled out and went a second extra end. It was a very interesting, close game. But this year, Team Canada with the 4-point lead.
Yep. Hard. Right up. Good.
Nice shot.
Good, Kim. Nice weight.
Well, you're maybe wondering when you're tuning in why I'm in the seat here next to Kathy Gauthier. Well, it's because John Wells wasn't quite able to get out of Toronto. And John, what's the update from Toronto now?
It was a no-fly zone yesterday, as you knew, and today the planes are flying. There have been 2 that have left for Winnipeg already, and mine's about an hour late, but I'll be there this afternoon.
Wellsy, it's nothing without you. Nothing against you, Linda. But I've never seen you look better in the morning, my friend.
Well, you're looking good, too. You've had a lot of camera time this morning, and I've noticed that. But there is de-icing fluid in Toronto today. And a lot of the passengers I've noticed have been bringing their own washer fluid from home just in case.
Now, John, we talked to Victor earlier, and he thought that your plane was arriving. So it continues to be delayed, or do you believe that you will be out of there?
Oh, we're flying today. It's delayed an hour because there's a long lineup of people who were waiting from yesterday. So they're lined up once around the terminal, but leaving about an hour late.
And do you think that you have any shot at getting your luggage with you?
Well, my luggage won't matter a bit as long as I make it there in time for tomorrow morning.
Well, and you can have some of my clothing. I'm making an offer, my friend, and that should be entertaining.
John, you know, you have them so organized here. They came by with the coffee and donuts and were looking around for you. Would you place your order early this year?
Well, I was just going to warn you, but it's a little bit late. Did you get a chance, Linda, to get a donut this morning?
You know, this is just so unfair.
I thought I'd set you up for that, John.
It's too bad we're losing our connection and you have to go now, John.
We look forward to seeing you soon, John.
Have a safe trip, buddy. We'll see you when you get
tonight.
here.
Thanks very much. Enjoy the match.
Bye.
T-line. T-line.
I do look forward to him coming. Linda, it is a pleasure working with you, but I have so much fun with John. And again, some great numbers, and this is so important for Colleen to take out of this game. 91% for hits. That's Colleen's strength, 92, and if you remember, it was early in the game. She had to draw against 3. She made that. Confidence coming out of this game. Does she know the ice, the weight? Is she playing well? You bet. Is her team? Absolutely. When you have 3 of your team members, 3 Canadians, you saw over 90%. This game is not as easy as it looks.
Colleen hoping to take those numbers into the game later today against Norway. Doherty Nordby is always a tough competitor and a 2-time world champ, so it is a great start for Colleen, Nancy, and the team. And you could see as the end was progressing that Olga did not change the strategy. We mentioned she could have gone to the tap back game on those rocks in the house, but continues to hit shot rock.
And again for Colleen, she's in a position where she has no worries. With the tactics that the Russian team is taking, there is no pressure at all being applied to the Canadians.
I'd take the same path for sure.
Give me a little more ice, Ned. A little more.
Colleen looking to put the stone right about here. What she feels will happen is it will force the Russian team to make
go full 12
the draw.
Or same shot, sort of. So am I.
Colleen coming any deeper than full 12. You know that the Russian team will probably go to their strength, which is the hitting. Colleen's placement of the stone here is about forcing the draw.
Quite a nice position, though, because Colleen's actually seen the Russian skip have a little bit of trouble with the hitting on this particular spot as well. So even if it slid in a little too far, they've had difficulty getting the stone into the position they want as far as Russia goes. Lots of pressure on them at this point in the game to try and score.
Not a lot less. And you're in fresher pebble.
Full 12 is perfect.
Full 12, yep.
Just full 12. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Sit, baby, sit.
That's exactly where she wanted it. And it will be the hit. For Olga Jarkova, from the first stand right through till now in the 8th, we have seen that her preference and her strength is the hit game. This is one of those shots where she could play the draw very easily. She would need 8 foot because it does curl very much, and because she likes the hit game and can get shot, that is why she's choosing to do that.
Needs to hold the shooter facing 2 here in the 8th end. And always a good sign when the brushers give it a little dusting, and it will be a single point for Russia. But still a huge lead for Canada moving into the 9th end, and the score will be 7-4. Colleen Jones and Team Canada in the lead.
Что сейчас будем делать?
Hi, I'm Randy Furby. Watch us today on TSN.
And it will be later today that Randy Furby and the team take on Germany, Andreas Lang, and it'll come to you at 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific. We're in Winnipeg for these 2003 Ford World Curling Championships. Not a bad day here in Winnipeg.
It is a beautiful day, actually.
As we check in the game on sheet A, Norway and Denmark, you saw a little bit earlier that Dorte Nordby cracked a big 4-ender. And now it looks like Dorte Holm and Denmark are facing maybe two. A little hard to tell about those ones on the left. She wanted to hit and stay. That would guarantee the point. And no, it is another single, a steal for Norway. And Dorte Nordby, a great start to her week. Diana Gaspari and Italy, a 3-7 to get within one of the U.S. after the U.S. had been stealing that game away. And this game, Switzerland actually got into big trouble in 7, got out of it with a steal, 8-3. Switzerland leaving Sweden. That's our feature match. Canada with the 3-point lead. And Japan and Scotland on the far side. Japan has had pretty good control of that game. And Edith Loudon, I mentioned, Kathy, a little bit of pressure because last year Scotland won the Olympics and the World Championships, not the team that's here this year. And I think that may be tough for Edith with a lot of pressure to try and perform.
Some very big shoes to fill. Jackie Lockhart, the woman that skipped the team last year to the world title, is in fact their 5th player, their alternate. But it is true that after coming through a year like that for Scottish women's teams, it does bring some pressure. And on our feature sheet for Colleen Jones with 2 ends left, now that we're in the 9th, it's a very simple game plan. She's up 3 points with last rock. We really are talking about elimination of stones.
They're just going to try and move these ones around. Nancy Delahunt's still throwing, so they can't just outright peel those rocks. And this may be a little chance, Kathy, to try out the tick shot.
I think it's a great idea, Linda, because as you say, they can't remove these stones. During the end, what I meant by elimination is, of course, just minimizing stones. So they could just throw this one through, but that's a wasted stone. And during the course of the week, you're going to have to make these shots when it's tied up. So why not try things? Didn't work? The world rules do not give you the option, as we had in Canada, where you can replace the stone or not. It goes back.
I threw it so much better than the first one.
Just needed to curl a little more. It would have nudged over the second stone and taken a lot of the speed off, of course, the raised stone. And now the come-around attempt for Russia.
Так. Сначала показал ты бэк.
Можно по линии, что с весом. Вес.
Надо.
Yana Nekrasova trying the out turn.
Да, еще. Дай линию, да. Да, девушки, еще, хорошо, еще. Да, еще.
Working hard to get it by those top 2 guards. Nice brushing for sure on that one, and great placement of that stone.
Got the double peel there, Colleen.
It's all right. Just one.
When Nancy says the double peel, she's talking about Colleen hitting it on the other side really thin. Would remove both. For Colleen, she's more concerned about removing the guard in front of the stone that is buried in the house, and that's why she's asking Marianne to play this particular shot.
And that's based on the end, the scoreboard, and the fact that Canada has the hammer, and really the only thing they need to make sure is they can get into the house for their single.
You bet.
Да, неплохо по линии, что с весом. Любой гард.
For Yana, looking to replace the guard. Olga Jarkova not trying to recoup all those 3 points at this early stage in this end.
Не надо, то он свалится.
Well, it is the time of the game where this 4-rock rule is really interesting because you do get the 2 front stones out. If you're throwing first, the team can try and move them, but can't completely remove them. So when you get near the end of the game, even with the 3-point lead, when you have the hammer, it's a little bit nervous.
Marianne Way trying to remove both of those top yellow stones. Successful at one, but leaves the other stone there.
The only way to get it, well, I don't even know if you could get that. I think you had to play 3/4.
Russian team again trying to replace that front stone.
There's 2 ways to approach this situation. If you're Russia, you can continue to guard, knowing Colleen will keep trying to peel it off. It delays what eventually will happen, I'm assuming, and that's a play into the 4-foot area around that guard that is just to the left side of center as far as the thrower looks at it, the right side of center for us. And Ed Norberg in Sweden had a great chance last end to try and get a big score and missed, and wow, another miss. Looks like maybe 2 for Switzerland, and that will be it. Sweden will call it quits in this first round of play, 10-3. The final, Mikhail Strosik and Switzerland coming through with the victory. But what a big turnaround on that sheet, the one in the middle, because Sweden could have gotten it close in the 7th end, had a miss, and Switzerland finishes it off.
It will be interesting to see this week, Linda. Nicole Strausak and her team from Switzerland have spent quite a lot of time in Canada this year. They knew that they would be the representative team. We're here, in fact, in Winnipeg earlier this year in the JVC Women's Bonspiel, and they have really worked at getting the experience at the high levels they felt they needed to take their game to a next level. And if this morning's outing is any indication, no question that with a 10-3 victory, you are off to a good start.
Switzerland has gone to the system where you qualify the year prior. It's what Canada used to do with the juniors, sending them off to the Worlds the next year to give them the year to train. And Nicole was actually in Bismarck last year watching the World Championships and getting a feel for what she would face this year. So it is an interesting concept. Russia doing a great job putting up those guards on the stone that is in the 12-foot.
On this shot, Colleen asking Kim Kelly to run that stone back, hoping to remove the rock that's also in the house.
Right up, over.
Just missing.
So here's the discussion. Where do you want to put it? First skip stone for Russia.
She's got 2 options, Linda. She can either do this, that's very defensive, but to try to score a variety of points, she can also come down and maybe play the split, tap this stone there, tap this stone there. That would leave her lying 2 buried if she's able to do that. Scoreboard says she is down 3 points without last rock, and so to continue to guard a stone and take 1 point, it is too little, too late.
Colleen with the hammer. I thought maybe Russia would just draw in. There's 2 ways to do it. There's through the hole, that's between the 12-foot stone and the front one, or the wide side. I thought they might just draw to the 4-foot, but we'll have a look and see how this works out for her.
Пока нет по линии.
Пока линии нет, внимания нет. Вау, нет, ничего. Нет. Ничего нет вообще.
She's thrown enough weight. She wanted to move the stone over. The problem with that is that it just ran a little too straight. She does get some separation, does lie 2, but certainly that top one's open for Colleen.
Let's check in on the game between Norway and Denmark. We've seen lots of rocks in play. Dorte Nordby with the lead, 8-3 in the 8th end. Dorte Holm throwing skips rocks for Denmark, and she's really been in big trouble. The game turned around quite dramatically in the 6th end when Norway took 4. And now Dorte Holm desperately needs to try and capture a point here. Well, desperately needs to get by that guard, actually. Look at that, she won't. And count them up, another 2, it appears, for Norway. And they will go ahead 10-3 in that game. Oh, what a big opening draw for Norway, as they look like they're playing very well, especially, oh, and they're going to shake hands. Dorte Holm says that's enough. And Norway will post their first victory of this World Championship play.
Yep. Both identical scores. The games that have concluded, both 10-3, very convincing wins for the Swiss team and the team from Norway so far this morning. And on our feature sheet, Colleen removing the open stone.
What is it for a draw? Can I still throw a 5 if I throw in the out-turn?
Still a great chance to play this come around. We know it will curl if you play that wide shot.
Well, Linda, by Colleen leaving that stone there, it also makes it a little bit more tough for her, because if they're able to put the stone there, this is the stone that's sort of taking away her free draw to the 4-foot. So she's created a little bit of a problem for herself. Obviously, what she might do is tap that stone up, but the degree of difficulty when you're already up 3 points remains.
Colleen will have a good look at this draw in case Russia happen to come a little deep. She can follow them down. What a wonderful opportunity for Olga Jarkova. We know it curls. We saw that earlier, and she's taken the brush on the edge of the 12-foot for this come around.
Да, мой. Да, линия.
Линия.
Линия. Да, еще.
Кир, может, ты бэк уже?
They're brushing for line.
Как будем делать?
This has already gone over to the guard. Look at that.
Да, еще.
Maybe a little light as well.
For sure, I think that makes the difference. So for Colleen, it will be the draw they're looking to see. I think they're playing the draw. The tap up on the stone that she's just thrown.
I think so too, yeah. One back?
Yeah, a little more.
I guess that wide side makes her a little nervous, but
bump it up.
Doesn't have to bump it very far. The stone that is shot rock is about mid 8-foot. The stone that she's moving is just fully 12-foot.
And honestly, for Colleen, Linda, there's no question that this shot is much easier given that Russia was short. She's not facing 2, she's facing only 1.
Okay, so I'll throw 4.5 for the bump. Do you think that'll get it there? Full 8. Yeah. Well, you know what? A bigger chunk than full 8. I'd try to bite the 4 seconds. Okay.
She got a break with that Russian stone, not getting into the 4-foot, not coming into the house, actually. Just needs to tap this full 8-foot close to the 4-foot for the single point.
Yep.
Yes, hard!
Line's fine. Yep.
Line's great.
Yep.
If you can sweep it, because it's over curling. If Get ready. Great shot.
Very nice touch.
Nice.
One red.
And it will be Colleen Jones getting the single and keeping that lead, heading home.
Okay.
It's a very nice shot for Colleen.
No, I mean,
didn't have the pressure of facing 2, but she does have to promote one of her stones, Linda, almost to the 4-foot. This is the variability of the kinds of shots Colleen will have to make this week in much more pressure-packed situations. So is it good to feel that you know how to make them the right weight, the right line? Does she have it all? She sure does.
If you can sweep it, because it's over.
Looked like it might over curl here. You could hear Nancy say you might have to sweep it to get the line, but it wasn't a problem. Tapped it far enough. And that's a bit of a comfort zone for Colleen as she takes an 8-4 lead into the last end of play.
The 2003 Ford World Curling Championships from Winnipeg, Manitoba are brought to you in part by Robaxaset, helping you walk away from back pain.
Well, I talked about the fact that Japan has had pretty good control of the game, leading 5-3 after 8, has the hammer in 9, but you could see the forefoot is very congested as Scotland and Edith Loudon have a couple of yellow stones in the house. It looks like maybe one yellow stone might be closest to the button. Japan, Shinobu Aota trying to draw to the button, trying to get the single to carry the lead home. And look at that, it'll overcurl. Looks like lots of swing on that sheet as well. So it is a steal. And I'm going to say of 1 for Scotland. So Japan still has the lead and has the hammer, but it's much closer now. Scotland creeping back in that game. But Denmark unable to creep back. Big 4 and 6 for Dorte Nordby, and it's a 10-3 lead over Dorte Holm in Denmark. Oh, look at this. Italy still hanging in there, tied against the U.S. Diana Gaspari against the team from U.S., Debbie McCormick. And Switzerland, Nicole Strausik, 10-3 over Annette Norberg in Sweden. A bit of a surprise. Norberg always very strong at these World Championships. Colleen Jones with the 4-point lead in our feature game. And a little bit of an advantage maybe too in the fact that they can toss a couple through here, Kathy.
No question about it. They talked about it in the break, and they knew that for sure on the first one they would do that, and they've just decided to throw their first 2 through. Those would be both of Nancy Delahunt's rocks. Canada does not need nor want any rocks in play. For Randy Ferbey and his team back in the room, as well as all the other men's teams, one of the things that they will be watching this morning is the ice conditions. They've practiced on this ice before, no question about it, but it is always different once the ceremonies are over and people come to play, and the building has a lot of people in it. And what we've seen this morning is that you need to believe that the rocks are gonna go, that they do curl a lot, but that there are some tricky spots, and there are spots that they do run straighter.
Canadian men, skipped by Randy Ferbey, play Germany, and it's this afternoon on sheet E. That's the game we just showed you, Japan against Scotland. And it was indicated on that draw, anyways, we saw by Japan that there is lots of swing for the men this afternoon. Now it's a time to peel those rocks out of there for Marianne Way.
All right. This is something else they talked about, Linda, in between the break, is the kind of peel weight. It's so easy to slide out so fast when the ice conditions are such that they are. But if you overthrow the rocks, Colleen is not going to be icing them properly for that. They talked about just control peel. No problem for Marianne Way, successfully removing that stone.
And I think we again have to give kudos to Hans Vutrick and the team here making the ice, because we often see when we have significant curl to the ice that the curl drags the speed off. You can't throw it quite the same way, that your brushers can't carry it quite the same way. I would say not so in this ice.
No, I would agree with you, Linda. Those men on Hans's crew are as good as you can find in this country and in the world, and their only mission is to give consistency to the players and to give them the best ice that is possible, and they work very hard at it, and they are very good at it.
Well, coming up next is Formula One qualifying. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix, and Kathy, who do we expect to be performing well in that?
Well, you know, David Coulthard's had a really good season. He could have won a pair of races. You got to think that Schumacher will get his car back. Ferrari technically should be the best one out there, but I'm pretty happy with the way the results. I'd like to see Villeneuve have a car that starts the race, as it did not last week.
You do like that, don't you? You do like that auto racing. You and Vic, it's really interesting.
I was actually thinking that perhaps he might want to take a Formula One car here. He might get here faster. But the thought of Wellesley behind the wheel is just too frightening for words.
Well, they're doing all they can do. As you see the Russian team attempting to put up those guards. It's just a very difficult task at this point in the game. It would have been interesting if Olga had made a come around last stand and really got the stone into the forefoot. That would have been a much tougher situation for Colleen, but at this point, Canadians just cruising with the 4-point lead.
And when you think back to this game, there's no question the Canadians got out to a 3-0 lead, but then, you know, the Russians got two, got right back in. The difference has been the draws not made by the Russian team. They have had chances when Canada has slipped behind the tee line, given them an opening, but deep, deep, deep has let them off the hook, let the Canadian team off the hook. And last end, Linda, you're right, if Olga Jarkova gets another stone in the house, Colleen is still playing the raise, but the pressure's much higher. She's having to make a better shot, and a better shot against two.
Russia needs to now get the stones into the ring, so they will try the come around. You have to think going into the game tonight, Canada playing Dordy Nordby in Norway, that there will be more rocks in play. Things that they might want to think about that might be different. Any changes to the plan, do you think, for Colleen Jones?
Well, for Colleen Jones, what they will take out of the game is the fact that they've thrown the rock really, really well. The big question mark, Linda, we talked about that and we showed you the board when we gave you some figures on Colleen, is her comfort with the 4-guard zone. She is going to be in as deep as you can get tonight against Dordy Nordby, who plays the game, and we saw today a zillion rocks on that sheet. For Colleen, it's going to be mental toughness and accepting that there's going to be a lot of rocks in play. And I think that the time clock might be a factor tonight for Colleen and her team.
So really the game was over.
Now we should point out that this often happens with the younger teams, and that's what Nancy and Colleen are talking about. The game's over. They can't get enough stones into the rings. But the European teams sometimes will play through the 10th end, unlike in Canada where we always see them shake hands. So you just, normally etiquette says you just keep playing, and there's no danger, of course, for Canada to make any attempts. Nothing in the rings, nothing behind the rings that they could possibly jam.
I do remember the same situation in '92, our first game. A similar thing happened, and when the team continued to play, I wondered if one of the rules I also didn't know was that we're 12-end games. I kept thinking, is it not over?
What else is going to happen here? You wouldn't probably throw your stones if there was any possibility you could make a mistake.
There's Manny the Buffalo. He is the mascot for the 2003 Ford Worlds.
That's not Vic under there, and he's just hiding on us, is he? Yeah, they're just playing through this 10th end now.
So for Colleen, this is where her world experience pays off. She realizes what's going on, will go through her same routine that she always does.
Yeah. 4.5 though, should I throw? 4.8.
The match tonight that we've been talking about, that big game with Dordy Nordby and Colleen Jones, they have gone head-to-head 3 times, and when you look at the success rate, it is Dordy Nordby that does have the edge on Colleen with 2 victories to 1.
And the loss, actually, the last loss was in the bronze medal game last year in Bismarck. Colleen did not score in the second half of that game, and Dordy Nordby stole that one away.
I knew it was heavy.
So you've got to think that this is going to be a highlight of the week. Dordy Nordby, 2-time world champion, going against Team Canada. It's tonight, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. That's the women's second draw after the men's first draw, which will be this afternoon.
Well, I'll go. I feel like going down with you.
Winnipeg Arena looking very nice for this year's Ford Worlds. Spiffed up, lots of shine, lots of new paint, it looks like, since the last time I was here.
Winnipeg does play host to the Manitoba Moose, our hockey team, who are on the road because of this event.
Very nice come around by Colleen. If you want to throw some practice stones, there's probably none better. A nice draw, top of the button, around the guard.
Nice wait for the Russian team for Colleen. Will just throw the guard and let the Russian team throw out the rest of this game. Canada having already won the game just by virtue of rocks on the board. 8-4 for Canada at this point.
Good to see if the, you know, what the guard does.
Okay, tonight, Colleen will move over to sheet C right next door to this game and take on Norway. And they're all seeming to be a little bit different as you move from sheet to sheet. You can take a little bit of the feel as she throws the guard, and you get a bit of that to take with you to tonight's game.
Clean. Line's fine. Keep it clean.
Clean.
Clean only. Clean only. It's over bending. You might be off of this one, actually. Yep.
Didn't want her to do the run back.
One of those bonspiels that you count up total points.
Russia has been already run out of stones, but they're continuing to play, so it will be one more stone that Olga Jarkova will play as she attempts to get a point this end.
Два, по-моему, не возьмем с такой. Да, попробуем. Может, не получится. Просто взять два.
Colleen Jones, Kim Kelly, Marianne Way, probably feeling very nice. Kathy, you're pointing out the numbers, and the numbers have been very high for these players today.
Another game that day, and you wanted to get home for it.
They have 3 of the Canadian women we showed you were over 90%, some very, very high numbers. This is a world championship, so you know that the numbers really do indicate a level of play. And they enter this game with some great hopes. When I spoke to the girls last night and the night before, they just really felt that they had so much to prove to themselves, more so than anybody else, about what they were capable of at World Play. Bismarck, an overwhelming disappointment for them, and that was, Nancy said, their biggest excitement at winning the Canadian Scott Tournament of Hearts this year, a chance to come to Winnipeg, to come back to the world arena and prove mostly to themselves that they really do belong at the top of the world podium.
So it is the last rock for Olga Jarkova as Canada sits one in the back of the button. Trying to tap up her own rock. Not quite. So that will make the final actually 9-4. Colleen Jones, Kim Kelly, Marianne Way, Nancy Delahunt will win their first game here at the Ford Worlds over Russia.
Good luck in the next game.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, good game, you guys.
Yeah.
The 2003 Ford World Curling Championships from Winnipeg, Manitoba are brought to you by Karcher. You'll look for things to clean. By Nokia, official wireless phone of the Season of Champions. And by Ford, built for life in Canada.
Well, Winnipeg welcomes the world as the Ford World Curling Championships are here in Winnipeg. And as far as the first draw goes, it's Colleen Jones in Canada, 9-4 the victory over Russia. And they will next face Jordy Nordby. That's going to be a good one, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. That's tonight, the women's next draw here on TSN. Next is the men's draw as Randy Ferbey takes on Germany. Andreas Lang, that's at 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Kathy, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
No, thank you for joining me, my friend. Any morning, we are here.
Don't go very far, just in case the planes don't land. This has been a presentation of TSN, Canada's sports leader.